He traded love for a spaceship. She came back 3 years later in prison. Around him, humans and aliens bustled in every direction, their voices mixing in a chaotic hum that filled the air with life and energy. Cargo ships of all shapes and sizes arrived and departed constantly, each one carrying something valuable or dangerous to the far reaches of space. Jarek's eyes were fixed on the largest ship docked at the station, the Starlance, a sleek, silver freighter that gleamed under the artificial lights. It was more than just a ship to Jarek. It was a ticket out. A chance to leave the dusty, forgotten colony world behind and see the galaxy he had only dreamed of. And yet, the excitement of that possibility was tempered by a heavy weight in his chest. Lyra Mantis was standing behind him, her arms crossed, her sharp green eyes narrowed with frustration. Her auburn hair fell over her shoulders in a careless wave, catching the light as she moved. "Jerk," she said softly but firmly, "you don't have to do this. You don't have to leave." Jerk sighed, not turning to look at her. "Lyra, you know I can't stay here. I've been stuck on this rock my whole life. The Starlance crew offered me a spot. It's a chance to get off this colony, to see the stars, to make something of myself." She shook her head. "And what about us? What about what we had?" He finally turned to her, and for a moment the anger and frustration in her eyes softened. She was beautiful, smart, funny. She had been the one constant in his life when everything else felt small and meaningless. "I don't want to lose us," he said quietly, almost as if speaking it would make it true. "But if I don't take this, I'll regret it forever. You know me. I can't live small, Lyra." Her lips pressed together. She looked away toward the docking bay, watching a group of alien traders unload crates with precise mechanical movements. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "You're choosing a ship over me." I'm choosing my future," Jarek said, his voice trembling slightly. He wanted her to understand. He wanted her to see that this wasn't about abandoning her, but about survival, about opportunity. Lyra shook her head again. "3 years," she whispered. 3 years I've waited for you to decide, and now you pick a spaceship over the person who loves you." Jarek's heart twisted painfully. She was right, but there was no turning back now. The Starlance's crew was waiting, impatient. Every second he delayed, someone else could take his place. His chance to leave would vanish. I have to go," he said, his voice breaking. Lyra turned fully toward him now, her eyes glistening. "Then go," she said, her voice quiet but resolute. "Go be a pilot among the stars. But don't expect me to wait forever." Jarek stepped forward, closing the short distance between them. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back, shaking her head. Pain and determination warred on her face. "I'll come back," he said desperately. "I promise, Lyra. I'll come back for you." She gave him a small, bitter smile. "You said that last time too." He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked toward the Starlance, his boots echoing on the metal floor of the port. Every step away from Lyra felt like a cut to his heart. But there was no hesitation in his mind, only the steady, driving pull of ambition. The Starlance's ramp lowered with a smooth hiss, and he climbed aboard. The ship was larger on the inside than it appeared outside, with sleek corridors and a humming engine that promised speed and freedom. Crew members moved efficiently, preparing for departure. "Welcome aboard, Voss," said the ship's captain, a tall human with a scar across his left cheek. "We leave in 10 standard minutes. I hope you're ready." Jarek nodded, trying to keep his emotions in check. He felt a pang of guilt as he glanced back through the window, seeing Lyra's figure still standing at the edge of the port. She wasn't running after him. She wasn't begging him to stay. She was just watching. As the Starlance lifted off, Jarek pressed his forehead against the cool glass of the cockpit window. The colony world grew smaller, the mountains and deserts shrinking into nothing. The stars stretched out before him in endless black, punctuated by tiny points of light. Freedom. Adventure, opportunity. And yet, he couldn't shake the hollow feeling inside. The first weeks aboard the Starlance were everything Jarek had hoped for, and more. The crew was rough but skilled, each member carrying scars from a life spent in the edges of space. He quickly proved himself as an engineer and pilot, impressing the others with his quick thinking and bold maneuvers. Humans had a way of improvising that the aliens he encountered on trade routes couldn't match. He learned to exploit small weaknesses in alien technology, making the Starlance faster and more efficient than it should have been. One day, as the ship cruised through a dense asteroid belt, the captain turned to him with a rare smile. "You've got a gift, kid. Humans always do. Quick thinking, stubborn, unpredictable. I've seen aliens with all kinds of tech fail where a human makes it work." Jerk smiled, a little embarrassed. "Thanks, I don't like failing." "You'll learn to love it," said the captain. "Out here, failure is the fastest teacher." Even as he immersed himself in the challenges of space travel, Jerk's thoughts often drifted back to Lyra. He wondered how she was doing, whether she still waited, whether she had moved on. Sometimes, late at night, he stared at the stars and imagined her standing on the port, watching him disappear, just like that day. He didn't know it, but the galaxy had changed in those 3 years. Human colonies were under increasing pressure from alien corporations and corrupt officials. Trade routes were tightening, and the once bustling markets of the frontier worlds were now tense and dangerous. Jerk's skills would soon be tested in ways he had never imagined. 3 months into the journey, the Starlance received an encrypted distress signal. Jerk was in the engineering bay, recalibrating a hyperdrive module, when the alert flashed on the control panel. The signal came from a high-security prison world known for housing political prisoners and alleged saboteurs. "Look at this," Jerk said, showing the captain the message. "It's a distress call, but it's unusual, almost like it was sent deliberately, not by accident." The captain frowned, scanning the coordinates. "That's a dangerous place. Only the stupid or desperate go near it. Why would anyone send a signal like this?" "I don't know," Jerk admitted, "but something about it feels familiar, like I've seen this kind of encryption before." The captain gave him a skeptical look. "You mean to say you're curious enough to go chase it? That's brave or foolish." Jerk didn't answer. His mind flashed with images he hadn't shared with anyone, the feeling of being left behind, the regret of leaving someone he loved. Maybe this signal wasn't just random. Maybe it was fate or chance calling him to something he couldn't ignore. But for now, the decision would have to wait. The Starlance had cargo to deliver, routes to chart, and dangers to navigate. Jerk returned to his work, but the signal lingered in the back of his mind like a quiet whisper, promising that the galaxy had not yet finished testing him. Back on the colony world, Lyra Mantis sat in a small apartment, her gaze fixed on a hollow screen that displayed Jerk's last known location. She had received rumors of the Starlance and its young pilot, the one who had left her behind. Her heart ached with a mixture of anger, betrayal, and longing. "I hope he's happy out there," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I hope the stars were worth it." She didn't know that her own path was about to take a drastic turn. Corruption, injustice, and betrayal were brewing in the shadows of the galaxy, and when the fates of Jerk and Lyra collided again, it would not be gentle. Jerk stood in the cockpit one night, staring at the stars and feeling the hum of the engines beneath his feet. The universe was vast, full of danger and opportunity. He had chosen the ship over love, freedom over comfort, ambition over security. And deep inside, a small, persistent voice reminded him that some choices were never truly left behind. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent but full of promise. And somewhere out there, Lyra waited, unseen, unknown, and yet somehow, inevitably, part of the same universe he now called home. 3 years had passed since Jerk Voss had left the dusty colony world behind. The galaxy had changed, and so had he. The boy who once had only dreams of leaving home had become a pilot known for quick thinking and daring maneuvers. His reputation among the frontier worlds grew quietly but steadily. He was clever in ways aliens could not predict, resourceful in ways no machine could imitate, and stubborn in ways that often frustrated even the most patient of human crews. Yet for all his skill and adventure, one thought never left him: Lyra. He hadn't heard her name mentioned in the galaxy's markets or among the freighter crews, but something deep inside had told him she was still out there. The distress signal he had ignored months ago now burned in his memory. He hadn't known then that it was connected to her. He hadn't even imagined she would be caught in something so dangerous. Meanwhile, on the grim world of Zareth Prime, Lyra Mantis was confined to a narrow cell within the galaxy's most notorious prison. High walls of blackened metal surrounded the compound, guarded by automated drones and armed alien officers. The air was cold, the corridors smelled of rust and recycled metal, and every shadow seemed to watch her with silent accusation. 3 years of imprisonment had changed her. Her once soft auburn hair was now cut short, practical for survival. Her sharp green eyes, though still full of fire, had learned to read danger before it arrived. She had survived fights, intimidation, and harsh labor. She had endured the loneliness that gnawed at the spirit, and she had kept her mind sharp with constant planning. Lyra's crime was alleged sabotage of a mining operation on Zareth Prime, a crime she had not committed. A corrupt alien official had accused her to cover up his own misdeeds, and in the bureaucratic chaos of the system, her voice had counted for nothing. Each day, Lyra went through the same routine: wake, work, eat, sleep, survive. Yet even in this bleak life, she never gave up hope. Somewhere far away, she thought of Jerk. She hoped he had not forgotten her. Perhaps he had gone on with his life far beyond her reach. Perhaps he had not. And now fate had begun to stir. The Starlets drifted in low orbit above a neutral trade planet, Jerk leaning against the railing of the observation deck. The stars shimmered, distant and cold, but a faint signal pulse flickered across the dashboard of the ship. Jerk's heart skipped a beat. It was that signal, the same pattern he had noticed months ago. "This is impossible," he muttered to himself. "I never thought it would appear again." The captain of the Starlets approached, towering over him as usual. "You look troubled, Voss. Something wrong?" Jerk shook his head. "It's a signal from a prison world, Zareth Prime. I don't know who sent it, but it feels personal." The captain raised an eyebrow. "Personal? The last time someone called a prison world personal, they didn't come back." "I have to check it," Jerk said firmly. His instincts screamed that this was no ordinary distress call. Something or someone needed him. The captain sighed, but he knew better than to argue. "All right, but this is dangerous. I trust your judgment. Just remember, not every signal is meant to be answered." Jerk's fingers hovered over the controls. The Starlets' engines hummed as it began the long descent toward the prison planet. He had a plan in mind, but the unknown was always a risk. On Zareth Prime, Lyra noticed the unusual activity in the skies first. A silver freighter moved against the usual trade lanes, silent and precise, as if it were studying the planet. Her heart thumped as a small part of her mind whispered, could it be him? That night she lay on her thin bunk, staring at the ceiling. Memories of Jerk's departure, the look in his eyes, the words he had said, haunted her. She pressed her fists against the thin mattress and whispered, "If it's you, Jerk, please come for me." Outside her cell, the prison was alive with the quiet hum of security drones. Guards moved with mechanical precision, unaware of the storm about to disrupt their order. Jerk's ship slipped past the outer defenses of Zareth Prime, scanning the prison complex with careful precision. The Starlets' sensors picked up heat signatures, patrol patterns, and electronic security grids. Every bit of information was crucial. He studied the schematics carefully, devising a plan that relied not on brute force but on clever improvisation, an approach no alien system could anticipate. "This is going to be tricky," he muttered, "but it's human-proofable." The crew of the Starlets moved into action, each member performing their assigned tasks with efficiency. Jerk's plan was bold, almost reckless, but it relied on speed, improvisation, and exploiting weaknesses in alien technology. 3 hours later, the team was ready. They had created a diversion near the main entrance, hacking into surveillance drones to loop video feeds. A small, specialized pod was lowered toward the prison walls. Jerk sat inside, his heart racing as the planet's surface grew closer. Inside the prison, Lyra's routine was interrupted by an unusual noise, a soft, mechanical whirring that did not belong. She froze, listening carefully. The other inmates ignored it, too used to the constant hum of the facility. Then a small device appeared through the ventilation shaft, a compact drone with blinking lights and a familiar logo. Lyra's heart nearly stopped. She recognized the insignia, the starlets. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the small communicator attached to the drone and whispered, "Jerk." "Lyra," a familiar voice replied, calm but urgent. "I'm here. I'm getting you out." Tears pricked her eyes. She had spent 3 long years imagining this moment, hoping it would come, and now it had. But there was no time to linger. She had to move, to act, to trust in him completely. Jerk guided Lyra through the complex from a secure remote terminal, providing instructions and real-time updates. She moved silently, avoiding guards and cameras, her training in survival now combined with the hope of reunion. Every step was tense, every corridor a potential trap. Finally, they reached the outer perimeter, where the Starlance's pod awaited. Jerk's crew had disabled the security grid for just a brief window, enough for Lyra to reach the escape point. Lyra climbed into the pod, and Jerk initiated the liftoff sequence. The pod rose swiftly, narrowly avoiding patrol drones and automated turrets. For the first time in 3 years, she felt the cold rush of freedom against her skin, the hum of engines promising safety. As the pod docked with the Starlance, Jerk was already waiting inside. He grabbed her hand, pulling her into an embrace. Neither spoke at first. Words were unnecessary. The relief, the joy, and the years of separation poured out silently in that moment. "You're safe now," Jerk whispered, holding her tightly. "I knew you'd come," Lyra said, her voice trembling but strong. "I never gave up hope." Jerk looked at her, his green eyes reflecting the starlight outside. "Neither did I. Humans were stubborn that way." But freedom was only the beginning. As the Starlance jumped to hyperspace, alarms sounded. The corrupt official responsible for Lyra's imprisonment had dispatched a fleet to intercept the escaping pod. "Looks like we've got company," said the captain. "They didn't want her out, and now they're coming for us." Jerk's mind raced. He studied the alien fleet's patterns, searching for a weakness. Then, with a wry smile, he began issuing orders. "We don't have to fight them head-on. They think their technology makes them unbeatable, but humans, we improvise." Every crew member moved with precision, following Jerk's plan. They used decoy drones, fake sensor signals, and unconventional maneuvers. The alien fleet, confident in their superior technology, fell into a carefully constructed trap. Lyra watched in awe as Jerk guided the Starlance with skill and daring. Every movement calculated yet bold, a perfect example of the human ingenuity that had become his signature. By the time the alien fleet realized the deception, the Starlance was gone, vanished into hyperspace, leaving the pursuers behind in frustration. Hours later, in the quiet of the Starlance's observation deck, Lyra sat beside Jerk. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, vast and mysterious, yet filled with possibility. "You didn't just save me," she said softly. "You outsmarted them. You humans are incredible." Jerk smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We've always been like that. Resourceful, clever, stubborn, we survive because we can think differently, and we fight harder when it matters." Lyra leaned against him, finally allowing herself to relax. "I never thought I'd see you again. I thought maybe you'd forgotten me." "Never," Jerk said firmly. "You're the reason I came back. I made mistakes, I left, I chose the stars over you, but some mistakes you get the chance to fix. The starlings jumped again into hyperspace, carrying them toward freedom, safety, and the uncertain future that awaited. One thing was certain. Humans would always find a way, even against impossible odds. And together, Jerk and Lyra were unstoppable. The stars stretched endlessly outside the cockpit window of the Starlets, distant and cold, yet full of promise. Jerk Voss gripped the controls, his mind sharp and alert. Beside him, Lyra Mantis watched the blinking sensor screens, her hands moving with practiced precision. She had learned quickly during their escape, adapting to Jerk's style, reading his intentions almost as if she had been born for this life among the stars. They were not safe yet. The corrupt alien official who had sent her to prison was relentless, and his fleet now hunted them across hyperspace. It was not just a chase. It was a war of wits, technology, and human ingenuity versus alien precision. The Starlets shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace into a narrow system of asteroid fields. Jerk's eyes scanned the sensors. They're coming, and they'll be fast, but we can use the field to our advantage. Lyra's fingers hovered over the console. You mean trap them in the asteroids? Jerk grinned. Exactly. Humans aren't just clever, we're unpredictable. They won't see it coming. The alien fleet appeared, sleek and deadly, their engines glowing with cold blue light. They moved in perfect formation, a rigid machine of destruction. But they were machines. And humans were wild. Jerk guided the Starlets through the asteroid field with astonishing precision. Lyra coordinated their movements from the navigation console, reading each asteroid and predicting the alien fleet's response. Together, they moved as one, a combination of human instinct, improvisation, and sheer audacity. The aliens fired. Energy beams streaked past them, striking massive rocks and creating sparks that lit up the dark void. Jerk twisted the ship, dodging narrowly. We need to split them, he said. Use the debris to force them apart. Then we hit them where they're weak. Lyra nodded. Ready when you are. With a sudden burst of speed, the Starlets darted between two massive asteroids. The alien ships followed predictably, their programming unable to adjust to Jerk's improvisation. One collided with a rock, disabled, its engines exploding in a silent flash of light. Nice work, Jerk muttered, his voice steady despite the tension. Keep moving, they'll adapt fast. The Starlets' crew worked seamlessly. Humans thrived under pressure, each action precise yet flexible. They hacked minor control nodes on the alien ships using portable devices, causing momentary confusion. The aliens were formidable but rigid. They relied on protocols and numbers. Humans relied on creativity. Jerk maneuvered the ship closer to the enemy flagship. He grinned, a flash of audacity lighting his face. Time for a little human trickery. Using the ship's cloaking module, a prototype he had modified himself, the Starlets vanished from the sensors of the alien fleet. They scanned the skies, confused and growing frantic, as the Starlets silently positioned itself behind the flagship. Lyra tapped into the external systems. I can override their shields for just a few seconds. It'll be enough to disable their engines, but we have to be precise. Do it, Jerk said. A hum of energy pulsed through the ship. A wave of interference struck the flagship systems. Engines failed. Power grids flickered. The alien fleet hesitated, unsure what had happened. Jerk seized the opportunity. He piloted the Starlets in a daring run, striking the flagship's weak points. Systems overloaded, shields collapsed, and the massive vessel spun helplessly. The other ships, now leaderless and confused, scattered in panic. Lyra laughed softly, disbelief and exhilaration in her voice. I can't believe that worked, Jerk smiled at her. That's humans for you. We do the impossible because we have to, and we don't think like anyone else. With the immediate threat neutralized, Jerk allowed the Starlets to drop into low orbit above a nearby neutral world. They were not entirely safe yet. Pursuers might regroup. But it was a moment to breathe, to recover, and to reflect. Lyra leaned against the console, staring at the stars beyond. 3 years, she whispered. I thought I'd never get out. I thought maybe you didn't care. Jerk shook his head. I cared more than anything. Leaving you was the hardest choice of my life. But I promised I'd come back, and I did. You taught me patience and courage. You survived everything. That's human strength too. She looked at him, her eyes shining. And you didn't just survive. You came back against impossible odds. I told you, Jerk said softly, humans improvise, we endure, and we fight for what matters. That's what makes us us. It was a quiet moment, but heavy with emotion. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of unknown threats. Yet in that instant, they were together, alive and undefeated. The neutral world offered temporary sanctuary. The Starlance's crew worked quickly to repair damage and resupply. The humans aboard the ship thrived under adversity, their cleverness and teamwork creating opportunities where others might see only danger. They traded with local merchants, used clever ruses to avoid unwanted attention, and ensured that the corrupt alien officials' agents could not track them. While the crew worked, Jerk and Lyra spoke quietly. What happens next? She asked. We find a way to ensure he can't hurt anyone else, Jerk said. This isn't over yet, but we've proven something. Even when the odds are stacked against us, humans survive. We adapt. We win. Lyra smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. I like winning, she said softly. Especially with you, Jerk chuckled. Humans do it better together. Weeks passed as they plotted their next moves. Using intelligence gathered from the neutral world, Jerk devised a plan to expose the corrupt official. He would broadcast proof of his crimes to the major trade networks and alliances. No fleet could stop the truth once it was unleashed. The Starlance launched into deep space, carrying its crew and their evidence. Alien ships attempted to intercept them, but the combination of human ingenuity and unpredictability allowed them to evade capture repeatedly. Every move Jerk made showcased the distinct advantage humans held, the ability to improvise, to think differently, to survive against overwhelming odds. Finally, after days of travel and tension, they reached the edge of the trade network's central hub. Jerk transmitted the evidence, sending files, recordings, and testimonies to every major alliance and trade authority. Within hours, the corrupt official's reputation crumbled. Ships loyal to him defected or refused orders. His fleet fractured, unable to function without leadership. Lyra watched the transmission complete, feeling a sense of satisfaction she had never known during her years of imprisonment. Justice, she said quietly. Finally. Not just justice, Jerk replied. Proof that humans, our kind, make the impossible happen. We fight, we endure, we survive. That's the message. The galaxy slowly shifted in their favor. The corrupt official's influence waned, colonies freed from his oppression, and trade routes began to stabilize. Jerk and Lyra became a symbol among frontier worlds, not as rulers or conquerors, but as living proof of human resilience, ingenuity, and courage. In quiet moments aboard the Starlance, they reflected on their journey. I traded love for a ship, Jerk admitted one night, and I was wrong. I shouldn't have left you, Lyra smiled. But you came back, that matters more. You didn't just come back, you fought for me. That's the human spirit I fell in love with. Jerk took her hand. We're stronger together. Humans are stronger together. And no matter what the galaxy throws at us, we'll endure. We'll win. The stars stretched infinitely beyond the Starlance, silent witnesses to their journey. There would be other dangers, other challenges, and other adventures. But Jerk and Lyra had proven one undeniable truth. Humans were clever, bold, and unstoppable when it mattered most. As the Starlance jumped into hyperspace, leaving the remnants of the alien fleet behind, the crew celebrated quietly. They had survived against impossible odds, saved a life unjustly taken, and reshaped a small part of the galaxy. And at the heart of it all were Jerk and Lyra, united again. The human spirit had triumphed, not through superior technology or numbers, but through courage, ingenuity, and the unwavering drive to protect what mattered most. For the galaxy, this was a quiet victory. But for humanity, it was proof. No matter the challenge, no matter the odds, humans endure, humans fight, and humans win.